Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, Armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I am your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's time for us to talk Aussie Grapps. Today is the day we take a look at everything that's going on around this great country that we love, the land down under. Have a look at the world of wrestling as it relates to our country here, our local guys, as we are big supporters of the local Grapps. We also like to sit down and talk Australian wrestling with Australian wrestlers. Today we have a special treat for you. We have not one, but two. That is right, two interviews for you, both relevant to this weekend's action as it pertains to IWA versus MCW. I'm sitting down to talk with Jackson Kelly. I'm sitting down to talk with JXT, representatives from each company in relation to their gang warfare match, as Jackson Kelly puts it, that is coming up this weekend. It's definitely one to check out. But before we get to the interviews, let's take a quick look at the wrestling news. As we tend to do, let's start with World Series Wrestling. World Series Wrestling being the biggest national company. I guess it's safe to say they bring over a lot of international guys and they tour the entire country. And what they do best is they put our local talent up on that stage with those international talents, showing that we have world-class talent, that we can hang with the best in the world. We're not talking has-beens, we're not talking blasts from the past, we're talking people like Austin Aries, people like Walter, people like Brian Cage. These are current world champions. These are current X-Division champions over in Impact. And our guys hang with them on the biggest stage in Australian wrestling. That's World Series Wrestling. They have a tour coming up in November. In case you've been living under a rock, that is the Elite Takeover Tour. It will see Cody Rhodes, Marty Scurll, Flip Gordon. That's right, Marty and Flip Take Australia. Still waiting on that shirt to arrive from Pro Wrestling Tees, but it's a big tour that's happening in November. They're skipping Adelaide and Brisbane again, unfortunately, but it will take place in Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth. And this week they announced Mick Moretti will be added to the program. Fantastic. Mick Moretti's, well, I've said this multiple times on the podcast, Mick Moretti's one of my favorites. He's highly underrated in terms of the world scene. He's heading over to Chikara along with his Four Nations teammates Adam Hoffman and Jack Bonza next weekend to compete in the King of Trios. So best of luck to you guys as well. Shazza McKenzie, Jessica Troy and Madison Eagles for their matches as well. I'm really excited for their match. They're up against the Tokyo Joshi Pro representatives, which if you listen to any of my other podcasts like the This Month in Pro Res, you know I'm a big fan of Tokyo Joshi. So that match is bookmarked. I can't watch it live. I'm so pissed off that Chikara are not doing it live this year, but it is what it is. Mick Moretti, as I was saying, he is one of the most underrated talents in the world. He is a big character guy. I love Mick Moretti's work, and he is now announced for World Series Wrestling for the tour, so that's very exciting stuff. Also this week, you will have heard, of course, that MCW 100 took place last weekend. I did an entire recap episode with Lyle from On the Turnbuckle. I also did a preview episode with Brent, who is also from On the Turnbuckle. and we talked MCW 100. So, if you haven't checked those out yet, the show should be up on demand sometime soon. So, get onto the preview, have a listen, watch the show, listen to us recap it. A fantastic thing to do for the weekend if you're not able to get out to support your local grapplers in person. Watch them on demand. Why not? Let's support Melbourne City Wrestling in the fantastic work they're doing. What a great show it seems to have been. I really can't wait to watch it. Everyone has been raving. There's been a lot of Twitter buzz. There's been some fantastic matches that took place. But there is no rest for the wicked. Melbourne City Wrestling have already started making announcements for their next show, which is Fight to Survive, taking place at the MCW Arena in Essendon. That one comes to us live on September the 8th. 2 matches have been announced for that this week. The first is a big 10-man elimination tag match, Survivor Series style. We got Team Gene versus the Dow Dogs. I see what they did. Team Gene is like Mean Gene, but for Gino Gambino. So we've got Team Gene. That's Gino Gambino, Loverboy Lockie Hendricks, and the Helter Skelter Boys taking on the Dow Dogs. That is Dowie James, Robbie Eagles, TD, JXT, and Funtime Phil. That's a lot of narrative packed into one 10-man elimination match. MCW are incredible with this, with their sowing seeds and pulling threads, and very similar to New Japan in their long-term storytelling. I don't want to, pump it up too much and then people go, this is nothing like New Japan. I'm just saying they tell good stories. Melbourne City Wrestling are fantastic with telling their stories, and this one has a lot of story packed into it. We've got the Helter Skelter Boys with Funtime Phil recently. You've got Dowie James, who suffered an attack at the hands of Loverboy Lockie Hendricks during his match with Gino Gambino at MCW 100. TD and Lockie Hendricks have history. There's a lot going on in this match, so it's going to be a good one, definitely. Like I said, Survivor Series elimination match. Those kinds of matches are always fun, so really looking forward to this one. Another match announced this week was Adam Brooks and Stevie Phillip. Now, this one, Stevie Phillip is someone who everyone in the country has on the tip of their tongues. If you ask, who's someone we need to be watching? Who's someone we need to look out for? The kid is a star. He is fast rising. He has really made a name for himself. Obviously, that match with Will Ospreay, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Definitely keep your eye on Stevie Phillip. This one is going to be one to watch as Adam Brooks returns. First time in Melbourne for 9 months. Stevie Phillip has made a huge name for himself while Adam Brooks has been over in the UK doing the exact same thing over there. It's going to be a great match. Really looking forward to this one. So keep an eye peeled out for Melbourne City Wrestling's Fight to Survive. If you're in Melbourne, make sure you head down to the show, support your local grapplers. And of course, for the rest of us, it'll be up on demand not long after it occurs. Also this week, we had a few announcements with Wrestle Rampage. They've said that the full card is being announced for Domination later this week. Now, I'm recording this on Thursday. You hear it on Friday. The card might be released by the time you hear this, but if not, what we know so far, of course, Jonah Rock will be defending the championship against Tyler Trench in a street fight. We already knew that. But added to the card is the debut of Loverboy Lockie Hendricks, and the return to Wrestle Rampage for the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles. So we don't know who their matches are going to be against yet, but we do know that Loverboy Lockie Hendricks and Robbie Eagles will be in attendance for Wrestle Rampage. If you're in Adelaide, definitely get out to this one. It's on August 31st. Keep an eye out for the card. That one's going to be huge. Speaking of huge, we are huge on Iron Fist Pro. We've talked about Iron Fist Pro a lot on this show and on at thebplus.com. We're really excited about the style and the vibe that they're bringing. Obviously, bringing over Hideki Suzuki for a main event match against Jonah Rock is incredible. Really looking forward to seeing that one. This week, they announced 2 more talents for the show. That is Rapid Fire Mike Boomer and Golden Girl Joni May, joining the card for the September 28th Genesis event. Tickets are on sale now. I will drop a link in the show notes. It's their first show. Get out, be part of history. It's going to be really fun. Also, for their first show, Mayhem Pro, someone I have not covered on this show enough. I'm really sorry. They've been making talent announcements steady away in the background. I talked about it last week. I apologize then, but let's have a look at their first match. They announced their first match this week. This one's going to be taking place at episode 1. It's my first day. Mr. 24/7, Jake Navarra, takes on the J-Stick, JXT. I hope I got that right, JXT. He encouraged me to do it, and I feel like a goof doing it. I'm sitting here in my office with the microphone. I'm clicking my fingers. Channel 9 News up in Townsville ran a piece on QWA this week, that is the Queensland Wrestling Alliance, who run shows in the Townsville area. Really good to see more exposure for the boys. Tommy Asgard was featured heavily in the video, as were quite a few others, just doing little interview pieces, a bit of training footage, and then some footage from their most recent show. Now, this piece was, to be honest with you, it wasn't as good as the piece that Gippsland Pro got. Gippsland Pro were treated so seriously by the news down there. I was really happy for them. And look, any coverage is good coverage. Any exposure is good exposure. I truly believe that. And it's really great to see QWA on the news. And they treated it seriously, but they did also throw in their little lines like, fans in Townsville can smell what the QWA are cooking. Little lines like that where it's like, okay, clearly these news writers have not watched wrestling since 1996. But it's still fantastic for the boys. Really happy for them. Queensland Wrestling Alliance is one that I'm going to have to be keeping an eye on. I've said it before. I unfortunately have a huge hole in my knowledge when it comes to Queensland wrestling. For a long time, the circles I ran in, Queensland wrestling was kind of the butt of the joke with Australian wrestling, and as I've paid more attention to it lately, I've realized that is not the case. There's one of my sleeper shows for the week this weekend is taking place up in Queensland. That's Venom Pro Wrestling. Now, Townsville's a little bit removed from the rest of the Queensland scene, but really exciting to see these guys getting some coverage, getting some exposure. I hope it leads to bigger crowds and bigger things for the company and for the scene in general. Speaking of exposure, wow. History was made this week as Australian professional wrestling went international. Now, of course, things like Pivot, Share, and Vimeo and YouTube have meant that a lot of our things have been available internationally for a long time, but this is something different. Underworld Wrestling is now on Amazon Prime. Now, they announced a while ago that this was coming and that the deal had been made, but it's still, these kinds of things you never know until it happens. And Underworld 1 finally released on Amazon Prime. Really exciting. This is worldwide exposure. When you open up your Amazon Prime app on your PlayStation, on your Apple TV, on your Roku, whatever it is, and you're scrolling through looking for suggestions, right there next to the tick, right there next to Aaron Mankey's Law, which is one of my favorite shows. Sleeper hit. Definitely recommend it. It's a horror anthology. I digress. Underworld Wrestling is right there, right alongside all these Amazon originals as a program featured on Amazon Prime. This is fantastic for Underworld. This is fantastic for Australian wrestling. Already we're seeing wrestlers getting new followers. We're seeing Vinny Massaro from Lucha Underground star was tweeting about watching it and giving it a go, and he seemed to really enjoy it. Justine has been coined the Stephanie McMahon of Underworld Wrestling. What a compliment for Justine. I hope she takes it as a compliment. When I read that tweet, I considered it a compliment. It's fantastic stuff. Underworld Wrestling is going global, which can only mean good things for our Aussie Grapplers. It can only mean good things for the Aussie Grappling scene. Big congratulations to the Underworld Wrestling team. I know that you guys have been working hard on it ever since the Kickstarter went up. Really proud to be a supporter of Underworld Wrestling. Really proud to be a member of The Claw. And if you haven't checked out Underworld Wrestling, please, I'll drop a link in the show notes to the Pivot Share. You got to get on this before it's too late, because people, not just in Australia, people in the wrestling world will be talking about Underworld Wrestling, and you want to be one of the people who said, I knew about it before everyone else. You want to be one of the people who was there. If you live in Melbourne, we've got a lot of listeners in Melbourne. If you live in Melbourne, you want to be one of those people that can say, I was there for Underworld Wrestling when it started. Definitely check it out. I'll drop a link in the show notes. Congratulations to the whole crew, everyone who, wrestlers, backstage, everyone who has worked so hard to make this a reality. Fantastic things for Australian pro wrestling. Also this week, PWA Colosseum tickets went on sale, and the VIP section sold out in just over an hour. Really good news for PWA. These guys are putting in the hard work, putting in the hard yards, putting on fantastic show after fantastic show. This Colosseum tour, we still don't have any details about it. Really excited, want to find out who these pure grapplers are, want to find out what the tournament structure is. If it's just going to be that one night, I assume it will, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's a very exciting concept to bring all the best pure grapplers from Australia together for one night of insane action. VIP tickets have sold out, as I said, but if you head to the link in the show notes where you can buy tickets for this one, You will not be disappointed. If you're in Sydney, get out and check out PWA Colosseum. That one's on 20th of October, so you still got some time, but the tickets are moving fast, so you definitely want to get in for that one. One of the biggest stories of the week for me came from Mick Moretti, who we spoke about earlier being added to World Series Wrestling. He is a PWA regular and faithful, obviously heading over to Chikara for King of Trios next weekend. Now, for those who don't know, Mick Moretti, about a year and a half ago, launched a hashtag campaign called hashtag You're Gonna Notice Us. I will put the video in the show notes below as I do, so you can check that one out. It was a brilliant little video that got attention of the wrestling world at large, because he was basically saying, look, we got left off the What Culture Pro Wrestling International Cup that they were holding at the time. We got put into a rest of the world category where we're lumped in with a bunch of other countries. It's just the rest of the world. Like, we're the leftovers, but we're not. We have world-class talent in Australia, and we're going to make you notice us. And he put his foot down, and he was going to America at that time to work with Chikara, and he put his foot down and he said, look, you're going to notice us. We're going to make you notice us. And in the year and a half since, you can only say it has been a resounding success. You're Gonna Notice Us went at least semi-viral. Like I said, it did get attention in the wrestling world. People loved that promo. I love that promo. And the concept, the entire concept, and what it meant for Australian wrestling. It was a marquee moment in sparking or continuing the Australian wrestling revolution that we are undergoing in this country. We owe a lot to Mick Moretti in that regard. And Australian wrestling has continued to grow, has continued to get better. Our wrestlers have continued to go overseas, to make names for themselves, to learn more, to bring that back, to lift everyone up. The rising tide is lifting all boats. It is true. That happens. And it has happened for Australian wrestling, and it is continuing to happen for Australian wrestling. And Mick Moretti announced this week that it is time for the movement to evolve. Hashtag You're Gonna Notice Us. They noticed, and now we conquer. Now we conquer. So he and the Four Nations are going to King of Trios with the eyes of bringing that title home. Madison Eagles is going to Pro Wrestling Eve's She-Won tournament with the aim of bringing that prize home. In PWG, we have Adam Brooks, we have Robbie Eagles, we have Jonah Rock. In Battle of Los Angeles, they are setting out to bring that crown home. Hashtag Now We Conquer. Now is the time. Gino Gambino in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Hashtag Now We Conquer. It is time for Australian wrestling fans to stand up and say it is not enough that you notice our wrestlers. It is not enough that you notice our country as a hotbed of professional wrestling. It is not enough that you notice. It is time for you to bend the knee and realize that we are amazing. We are fantastic. Hashtag Now We Conquer. Get on it. Get tweeting, get Facebooking, get Instagramming. I don't know all the social medias. I'm an old man, but support Now We Conquer. Support Aussie Grapps. Support your local wrestlers. And that brings us to this weekend. Get out to a local show, right? Before we get to the local shows, I do have one more show to talk about where IWA announced a couple of matches this week. Moretti will take on Gino Gambino. This one's a family feud, a lot of history here. Gino was like a father figure for the Turkish Delight Moretti. I'll drop a video in the notes below that'll show you a bit of the history here and a quick little promo from Turkish Delight as well. So that one's going to be a very personal match that takes place this Saturday at the Blacktown Workers Club. That's for the Melbourne City Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Gino Gambino and Turkish Delight Moretti. Also for this show, we're going to see Randall vs. Sid Parker was announced this week. That one's a no disqualification match. It's a rematch, 1 year in the making. Being a no DQ match, you got to think this puts Randall in a tough spot. So Randall already has the loss. He's coming back wanting to win this time. Sid Parker has said, yep, it's a no DQ match, though. That gives the advantage heavily to Sid Parker. He is well versed in these types of matches. It's going to be brutal, not for the faint of heart, but IWA Fighting Spirit 3 State of Origin. Definitely get it out. This one has a stacked card. This weekend has a lot of stacked cards. We'll get to that shortly. But first, we need to check out our interviews with Jackson, Kelly, and JXT these two are taking each other on this weekend at the IWA Fighting Spirit State of Origin show. It will be the Kelly Gang, that is Jackson Kelly, Will Keatis, and Brad Alexander, taking on JXT and the Brat Pack. They call themselves the greatest threesome in Australian professional wrestling, and it's going to be a gang war. Let's let the guys tell you about it, and I'll hit you up after the interviews with what's happening this weekend. Okay, and joining me at this time, the Beach Bum Buddha, Jackson Kelly. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks, Gregory. How are you, sir?
I am very well. By the time people are hearing this, they're probably going to be sick of hearing me say this. I'm exhausted because of the G1. The G1 should be finished by the time this airs, but...
Yeah, how many weeks of that have they got going over there?
So it's 5 weeks,
Yep.
and 19 shows in those 5 weeks.
Rightio. I'm not too well across the New Japan stuff. Like, I keep up with it when I can, but obviously this is a big deal. I'm aware of that. Yeah, I should catch up with it.
Yeah, well, it's really good wrestling, but around the middle weeks, which is where we are right now as we record this, around the middle weeks, fatigue sets in. Like, as a viewer, I can't imagine how it is for the wrestlers, but as a viewer, fatigue is setting in because you're watching 4 3-hour shows a week.
It's just like anything, I guess. It's the middle rounds. They're the toughest.
Yeah, absolutely. But it should come home strong. But let's talk about you. We didn't get you on the show to talk about New Japan. Let's talk about you're popping up everywhere lately.
Well, that's a good thing, I guess. Yeah, I'm starting to get real busy with it. I had a bit of troubles late last year with some health concerns, but once I returned from that in April at DY, I've tried to go full guns blazing with it and just trying to get around to as many different places as I possibly can. So thank you for that. That's a good sign.
Yeah, I've noticed you've popping up at IWA, Nui Pro, Rock and Roll, Underworld down in Melbourne. You got IPW up in Queensland. I know it just seems like everywhere you go, you're making waves. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, I like that. That's the plan. So we'll just keep that going and see where it takes me. Like, I'd like to go everywhere with this. I have the kind of mindset where just do it as much as you possibly can, and I'm sure everything will take care of itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good philosophy. That's why I put out 4 or 5 podcasts a week. So it's the same kind of thing. Just do as much of it as you can, right?
I like it.
I even saw you on an ad for a new dating show on Channel 7. So let's start there. What's the go with that?
Yeah, that'll be a whole lot of fun. It'll be called Take Me Out. It'll air on Channel 7, like you said. I believe it's going to air in November. I will be on it, and that's just about as much as I can say. I've kind of been sworn to secrecy as to kind of what happens on the show, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. I've had some good feedback from the producers, so we'll see how it turns out.
Right, so people should definitely keep an eye out on Channel 7 because you can see you briefly on the ad, and obviously you'll have an episode of the show when it comes out. I think I noticed just from the ad, it looks a lot like the show that Marty Skrull was on over in the UK.
I did. I was made aware of that, and I checked out the video that he was on, and I think it's the exact same show. From what I saw, that's kind of how this one's going to work. So yeah, exact same show. I guess I'm in a good stead there with Marty Skrull. He's doing
very good company to be in. Yeah. So I'll drop a link in the show notes for this episode. I'll drop a link to the Marty Skrull episode of the UK version, so people can get an idea of what they can expect from the Jackson Kelly experience on these shows.
Yeah, it's going to be quite similar, I think. I think Marty Skrull got a few, great responses from the girls, and without giving away too much, I definitely got a bit of a roasting as well. So I'd like to see how it comes across on TV.
Yeah, amazing. All right, well, let's bring it back to the wrestling.
Yeah.
How long have you been wrestling? Because you're a name that's kind of popped up on my radar a lot recently, but prior to late last year, I hadn't really seen much. So how long have you been wrestling?
Not much longer than that. 2016, mid-2016 is when I got trained. So I guess I've been wrestling for, what is it now, August? Just under 2 years now, probably about 22 months, I'd say, because I think I started 2016 in September. So yeah, just shy of 2 years.
So almost 2 years, Mark. Wow.
Almost 2 years, yeah. So yeah, it's been a bit of whirlwind so far. I'm having a lot of fun, and would love to keep it going as long as I can, really.
Yeah, and how did you come to it? How did you come to pro wrestling?
So my kind of story is maybe a little bit different, or I'm sure there's a few guys around who have done similar stuff. But I used to be a rugby league player. I come up through the grades at the Sea Eagles, and then eventually when that kind of diminished, when that ended, I was looking for a new physical challenge, and I've always been a wrestling fan. There's no doubt about that. Even towards the end of my playing days, I was sort of toying with the idea of transitioning into wrestling, just didn't know how to get it done. Eventually, when rugby league ended, things happened, and I shipped myself off to America to get trained. And here we are 2 years later after returning home from that trip.
Right. And so how was the transition from football to pro wrestling? Is your training regimen completely different, pretty much the same, just overall fitness? What's the transition like? In
terms of fitness, not much has changed. Like rugby league is obviously very intense. I'll always hold a pre-season training session up there with anything that I've ever done. But I think in wrestling it's a lot less running. Rugby league had a lot more running out on the field, and the fitness was based around the running. Wrestling's more, your squats and your push-ups and your deadlifts and all that kind of stuff. So body control kind of exercises. So, but in terms of intensity, the way that I train for wrestling and the way that I train for footy, if anything, I've just as I've got older, I've kind of obviously kept the intensity, but found smarter ways to train. So I hold them both, at least the way that I look at it, I hold them both equally on par.
Absolutely. And you did mention that you shipped off to America for your training. So you were Australia's first graduate of the Black and Brave Academy. Yep, that's right. I think I can possibly even say that I was the first international graduate. I believe that a student who didn't finish there. Me and a Canadian were the first internationals. The Canadian was the same class, but I'm not counting him as an international. If you drive there, you're not coming from overseas. That's for sure. Yeah. First Australian. That's for sure. That's a pretty cool little feather in the cap. But yeah, my time over there was very, very fun. Learned a lot, and it's obviously given me the motivation that I need to continue it when I returned back here. Amazing. So obviously, for those who don't know, Black and Brave is Seth Rollins' wrestling academy. So how was it training with the man? He has some other trainers that work there, obviously, because he's on the road a lot. Yep. But how was the overall experience with learning from one of the greatest minds of the modern generation? I will say, yeah, Seth Rollins was there. Marek Brave and the almighty Crotch were the trainers at that place, amongst some other guys there who had been training beforehand and helped us out a lot. So it was a very family kind of feel at the place. We kind of, when I was there, we started but Colby Seth started the house. So a lot of guys live with each other and kind of bunk with each other and train together, obviously. So it was very, very, very close and friendly. So that in itself was great in the sense that I made some great friends and had a fantastic time over there. But from a wrestling standpoint, obviously I don't really have too much of a great idea in terms of comparing it with other places. But the training was very physical. The fitness training, obviously, you just take one look at someone like Seth Rollins, and you know he works hard. So he put up the paces physically, and the in-ring stuff was a lot of focus on psychology, especially when you hear Seth give you advice on where to put things and how to do certain things and what the rules are of putting a match together. You definitely listen, and I think, from what I've noticed, I think, psychology-wise, I think I've had a pretty good advantage coming back here. Yeah, well, I mean, I consider you basically a walking advertisement for the benefits of training at the Black and Brave, because knowing now that you've only been doing this for 2 years, and you're as I said, you're popping up everywhere, and your match on Underworld Wrestling 1 was one of my favorite matches on the show. So I just think that, it's a testament to how great that school is, and obviously the work that you're putting in as well. Yeah, I appreciate that. So there's a lot of great guys to come out of that school, and there's a lot of guys doing well overseas. I'm just trying to do my own thing here. So I appreciate you saying that bit about the Underworld match. JXT is a fantastic he's a fantastic worker down there in Melbourne. So absolutely. So we want to get to JXT in a moment. Now, just while we're still with the Black and the Brave, you do have a match tomorrow. As we record this, it's August the 3rd. People will be hearing this later, but you have a match with someone who followed in your footsteps, Zeke Andino, up at IPW. Is that your first match with IPW? It'll be my first match with IPW, yeah, and my first match against Zeke Andino.
I have met him in person in the past. He did an old IWA show earlier this year, so which I wasn't on because I was out, but I was there and I had a chat with him, and we've kept in touch since he's been over there and done that. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes, how he goes up against me. It'd be interesting to see how I go up there on the Gold Coast in Queensland. And I think it's a pretty cool thing for the Black and Brave to say that there's now going to be a match, the first ever of its kind, where two Australians from that school are going one-on-one. So I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And that's IPW Ladder Wars on August the 4th. As I said, when this airs, it will have already taken place, but people can check the results on thebplus.com, where we cover all Australian pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. Something else they can see on bplus.com is you recently made an appearance at Newcastle Pro Wrestling, where you and your compatriots in the Kelly gang jumped Nui Pro champ Matt Rogers. What's going on there?
Yeah, so look, like I said, I want to make waves everywhere that I can, and that was a decision which kind of wrote itself in my mind. Like, I hadn't performed at Nui Pro, and when I turned up there, I kind of just wanted to take out the top dog. He's the heavyweight champion. He's been undefeated for 2 years, and he's kind of been running his own game up there. And I just wanted to make sure that he knew, and that the people of Newcastle knew, that it's not going to last much longer. So look, we let Rogers know that he's not the beast that he claims to be, even though he is a big, intimidating man. And he can be chopped down, so we chopped him down.
Absolutely. And you are flanked, of course, by the Kelly gang.
The Kelly gang, Will Keatis, Brad Alexander. They are two boys from Penrith, previously known as the Style Boys. Basically, I'm not sure if you're aware in Adelaide there of the geographical significance of them living in Penrith, but
I'm from Penrith.
Oh, are you? Oh, there you go.
Yes.
So you're well aware of the fact that Penrith is much lower on the status pole than the Northern Beaches. So, look, I basically rescued these boys from Penrith. They now they don't live with me on the beaches, but they now have their permits to the Northern Beaches. They've earned their permits to the beaches. They're now a part of my gang, the Kelly gang, our gang.
Right, and these boys have been with you from the beginning.
Since Fighting Spirit 2 last year.
Over in IWA, yeah.
Yeah, they some would say they helped me defeat Abbott. They just happened to be in the ring, but yeah, we've been tight since then.
Do want to ask you about, we touched on it, Underworld Wrestling. By the time people hear this, Underworld 2 will have taken place, but it may not yet be available on Pivot Share, so I probably haven't seen it. But with Carlo Cannon being stripped of the Underworld title due to injury, and Pitbull, the only man with 8 points, you are currently second on the leadership ladder with 6 points.
Yes.
What's the plan going into Underworld 2? Can we see you setting your sights on that championship match with Pitbull?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not quite sure what the at this, again, like you said, this will air after the show, but at this point, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing on the show. But obviously, that's my goal, is to win that championship. If it's through Pitbull, which obviously I believe it will be, then I'll have to take him out. That guy's got a pretty severe right hand on him, so. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
On Underworld 1, you both won matches by knockout.
Yes.
So, bit of a battle of the knockout artists.
His fist versus my boot. That'll be a very interesting matchup, in my opinion.
And, of course, the man that you did knock out at Underworld 1, JXT, he jumped you last time you were in Melbourne.
Yeah, he did. So, good to get the win up on him in the Underworld. But, yeah, I guess in my home promotion here in New South Wales, the IWA, I went down to Melbourne. I called out those fellas, and it seemed as if he was the one to answer that call, and hasn't made me very happy, because I wasn't really looking when he took me out. But it's kind of started something, and that's kind of what we find ourselves in when August 25th comes around.
Right, so you and the boys laid down the challenge for JXT to find some friends, come to IWA Fighting Spirit State of Origin August 25th at Blacktown Workers. He chose the Brat Pack, Nick Berry and Mitch Waterman, a highly decorated MCW trio that you boys are going to find yourself against. What can people expect at Blacktown Workers?
I think you can expect a very physical match. This is going to be gang warfare. That's kind of the way that I wrestle, is very physical, and if there's something that people need to know about me is that I take state pride rather seriously. Despite the fact that this is New South Wales versus Victoria, I'm one of the biggest New South Wales rugby league fans you will ever meet in your entire life. So when I have the chance to represent my state, there's probably nothing that I won't do in order to win this match. And the same goes for the other boys in the Kelly gang. And I'm sure JXT and the Brat Pack are going to bring it. They're tremendous wrestlers down there in Melbourne. They're doing very well for themselves. But when they come up to New South Wales, it's going to be a different story.
All right, and that's going to be one to watch out for. So if you're in the area, people, make sure you get down. Blacktown Workers Club, August 25th. Before you go, Jackson, I want to list off just 5 rapid questions, just quick answers, and then we'll go home.
Awesome.
So, dream opponent.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a big one.
I'm not very quick at this, am I? Why not? Let's go Seth Rollins. Why not?
Seth Rollins, absolutely. Favorite person that you have had the chance to wrestle so far?
Cowboy Chris Abbott.
Now, if you could jump one more person, dead or alive, into the Kelly gang, who would it be?
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood?
I have no idea why I said Clint Eastwood. I'm sure it was a wrestling-related question, but I just think he'd be cool to be in the Kelly gang.
No, it can be anyone, dead or alive. Absolutely. Clint Eastwood is a fantastic answer. Out of left field. Now, back to the wrestling questions, though. If you could bring one promotion over here for a tour, like New Japan did this year, like Progress did this year, what promotion would you bring over here to work with our Aussie guys?
Yeah, I had AAW in Chicago was one that I had the chance to work a pre-show on over there when I was in America. So I think having some of those guys on those shows to come over here would be pretty bloody cool.
Awesome. And last question before we go, favorite flavor of protein shake?
Oh, vanilla. Yeah, I don't like
vanilla.
I don't like chocolate flavored stuff.
Okay, fair enough. So you go with the classics. I'm finding that a common theme is people like to go with the classics.
Yeah, I mean protein. I've only really gotten back into it lately, but protein shakes, especially with milk, which is what I like to do. I guess the vanilla just goes with that. It's just a personal preference, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a strawberry shortcake guy, so when everyone comes out with these plain flavors, I'm like, you're missing out.
I think is that what Ned Flanders said on The Simpsons? His favorite flavor is plain. That could. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good stuff. So, thanks so much for sitting down with me, Jackson. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Let the people know, where can they find you? So,
social media. I'm pretty sure all my stuff right now is at the Beach Bum Buddha. So you got your Twitter at Beach Bum Buddha. You got your Instagram at Beach Bum Buddha. I think there's a Facebook, which might be facebook.com/Beach Bum Buddha. That's with an ER at the end, by the way, not an A. Some people like to spell it with an A, but because I'm from the beaches and highly educated, I like to use proper spelling. It's an ER for the Buddha. But yeah, check it out.
All right. Thanks so much.
No, thank you, Greg. Thank you very much.
And I am joined at this time by none other than Melbourne's own, the J-Stick. JXT, how are you?
Good. Did you get that nice click, that J-Stick on the sound there?
I can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's the J-Stick.
Bang,
like that.
Money.
Did I get it?
That's
there
right.
we go. All right. So, yeah, how are you, man?
I'm great. Busy, trying to make it all work, juggling every aspect of my life and putting it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And just off the back of a historic weekend for Melbourne wrestling, well, Australian wrestling, really.
It was, massive. Like, especially when, I'm a big basketball guy and playing state basketball and stuff as a kid. Like, MSAC was always, the show court. I was like, ooh, the show court. And to wrestle there, awesome, unreal.
Right. So anyone who's not sure what we're talking about, who's perhaps been living under a rock for the last week, Melbourne City Wrestling held their 100th event at the biggest venue they've ever run, Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre. 1,200 fans. How was it? That sounds crazy to me.
Oh, looking at it was crazy. I made sure, earlier in the day, I went up into the stands, up to the top row, and I just sort of sat and took it all in. Because I think with these things we get sometimes, you get too rolled up in the whole what's meant to be happening and how big a deal it is, and it sort of just passes you by and you don't let it sink in. But no, it was unreal, especially Thornbury Theatre, we wrestle, and we pack that place out with like 750 people, and they're on top of you. It's very enclosed, it's very close. Whereas this, being such a big joint, everyone was nice and spread out, so it was a different atmosphere on its own. It was really, yeah, like I said, it's an arena, so it felt very different.
Yeah. So was that the first time working an arena then, technically speaking?
Technically, I think, yeah. Like, I've worked small venues that have had small bleachers or like basketball, like smaller but like local basketball courts and stuff. But yeah, this was a proper arena, and it was the first time.
It's very impressive though for Australian wrestling as a whole, just how far everything has come. And I mean, you've been around a while. You've been doing this for a while now. You've been 7 years now?
Yes, very good. 7 years.
Yeah. So. Things have come a long way. How do you see it from where it was to where it is?
When I started wrestling, I was in a small, I wouldn't say small, but in a Maltese hall, and we were struggling to get 40 people in the door. And to wrestle in front of over 100 people was a big deal. So yeah, 1,200 is massive, but we got to keep things in perspective too. We don't want this to be the mecca and the be-all and end-all. We want this to be a stepping stone. This is only the start of what we hope and what we plan on is going to be something even bigger. So yeah, for sure, it's great to look back and be like, geez, 40 people in a Maltese hall, or with MCW, we're wrestling in a Chinese restaurant, and, people eating their dinner whilst we were wrestling. And then, yeah, now to be, like I said, in an arena, 1,200 people. And not just that, we're not in a suburban town either. Like, we're smack bang in Melbourne City, like in the middle, which is even harder to do again. So, it's a testament to how good MCW is doing and how well the scene as a whole and us as, wrestlers and everyone combined has been coming together and doing things right with the right, thinking behind it.
Absolutely. And it's been big year for Australian wrestling, big year for Melbourne City wrestling, but it's been a big year for you as well. I mean, you've had championship matches with House of Hardcore, of course, with Progress this year. You had the championship match there, headlining that show. Mm-hmm. You've got a win over Lucha Underground's Aerostar and Drago. Yep. I mean, it's been a big year for you.
Massive, yeah. It's a good point. I don't sit back and look at it like that, but yeah, when you roll them off, if you would have told me at the start of the year you're going to main event House of Hardcore and Progress shows for their main championships, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it like that. On top of, some of the guys who are some big names that I highly respect that I've been in the ring with and been able to, tie up with has been, you're right.
Yeah, right. Like Will Ospreay at Gippsland Pro just the other week. I saw you posted on social media about that one. That was a big one for you?
Yeah. It's happened to me once before that I can remember, like, notably. But you step into the ring and you can feel the guys on another level. And, like, I've wrestled a bunch of guys who've been in the WWE and stuff like that. But he was... I felt it out there. He was another level again. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world at the moment, and that was evident to me being in the ring with him. I was glad I held my own. Yeah, it was pretty cool for the Gippsland fans, which is 2 hours out of Melbourne, for them to be able to see that.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one being made available in the near future. Hopefully,
it will be, people. So yes, please hold tight. Don't worry, it will be made available online.
Right, so as you said, we don't want to look back too much, right? So you can look back at the year and say, look, everything's fantastic. But this is not the roof of things, right? The roof is way above, yet to be found. What's next for JXT?
Well, we got to close this year off because it's weird. The way bookings work is you sort of get asked, hey, these are our shows for the year. Can you commit to them? So I've got the rest of the year to fill out, but I plan on going to America next year for 3 months. Here's your exclusive. I haven't told this anywhere else, but
scoop.
Yeah,
the scoop.
So I think end of March I'll be going to America. I'll be in New Jersey, and I'll be there for 3 months. So if you know wrestling companies in the New Jersey, New York area, please hit them up and tell them you want JXT, because I'll be there next year. And my plan is to go over, and although we're building the scene here is only going to take off. It's only started to take off because our talents have taken their stuff elsewhere. You look at guys like Jonah Rock and Robbie Eagles that have gone overseas and made names for themselves overseas. And then when they come back, it takes the eyes that they made overseas and it puts them back on us, So the more guys that can go overseas, make a name, come back and really capitalize in other scenes and then put the eyes on Australia, I think is a good thing. So I just want to do my part and help out and hopefully build my name over in the States, and so I can bring some more eyes onto our product online.
Definitely. I mean, those excursions are a big part of, like, when you look at Japanese wrestling culture, for example, you know, the excursion is a big thing. And it's not just even about making the name, I think, as well, but the wealth of experience that you get, not just from the wrestling with people in a different part of the world, but from the travel, from the whole experience. It's a whole rite of passage almost.
Yeah, and I think something like being in Australia, it's the best time ever to become a wrestler in Australia. But I know when I started, there was only 3 wrestling companies in Melbourne, and they were the only 3 places. And normally, if you worked for one, you didn't work for the other.
Yeah.
I sort of bucked that trend myself, me and a few other guys, as we started working for 2 of them, and then more companies slowly started up. But
yeah, now sometimes it's not uncommon to have 3 running in one weekend.
Yeah, and that's amazing. You know, like Mayhem Pro's just started, and it's going to be on a Sunday. So hopefully in Victoria we can have those weekends where I can wrestle Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But it's more so that guys are when we come up, we get stuck. We wrestle the same people for the same companies all the time, and then you don't. Yeah, like you said, there's only so much experience and so much knowledge you can get. Each promotion is different, but each state, I find, has not necessarily a different style, but just a different way that they run things as wrestling. And when I went to the States last time, I found that, the more places I could work, like every company was completely different and working different guys. And even be here working wrestlers from other countries, you'll gain so much experience from that. So I just, not only put back into the scene, but invest in myself, and hopefully I can gain a lot from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, learning all the different ways of working. I mean, you go back through history, like that's what guys like Jericho and everyone did when they went to Japan. They go to Mexico and they learn all the different ways. You mentioned that I found it funny. You mentioned the different states having different ways of doing things. Mm-hmm. I'm from Sydney originally, and people who listen to the show know I did some training while I was up there, and I've just recently started doing some training again now down here in Adelaide. And the way they teach face bumps is completely different.
Well, there you go. And that's just like small little minute things you won't even realize.
Yeah, it's crazy to see.
Yeah. And in America, like different states call things different. Like some people will call like a back bump when you fall back, but then if you want to do a flip bump, some people call a flip bump a back bump, and just different areas like and like just the lingo and the wrestling language and the way people talk can be different in places. And then there's some things that are just like, some places are real casual, some places are very strict and by the book, but that's not necessarily a state or a country thing. That's just different promotions run differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you head over, you said you're heading over to New Jersey. Are you staying specifically in that area, or are you planning to kind of trek around a little bit?
Wherever I get booked is wherever I plan to travel to. But I plan to do some training with Wrestle Pro, and I plan to that they're based in New Jersey. So when I'm not traveling and all over the joint, if there's training that I can do there, I can do it this time. When I was there last time, I trained and worked at OVW and did training at Chikara. So I tried to sort of reach out as much as I could, but I was only there for a month last time. So this time I'm hoping with 3 months in the sort of that one area, I can sort of start to establish myself in that Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York scene. And there's a lot of indies there, so hopefully I can really work around and gain as much experience as I can.
Absolutely. Well, I do pay attention to the statistics on our episodes here, and I know that we've got some listeners in that area in the United States. So listeners, please reach out to your local promotions, or if you've got contacts, reach out to JXT as well. We'll tell you where to find him at the end of the episode. And just let's help a brother out and try to get some Aussie grapplers some extra exposure over there in the what's that? The Northeast?
Yeah, Northeast
in the United States.
Yeah, please do. And I think fans don't ever underestimate how powerful your voices are sometimes. That often I've had companies come to me and be like, yeah, we've had a lot of fans asking for you, so we want to book you on our show. And it's because of, fans wanting particular wrestlers on shows, and even just putting messaging a company and say, hey, I want you to book JXT. And they're like, who's JXT? And then they look and they go, oh yeah. And then in 6 months time, my name might come up again. They'll be like, oh, I've heard a little bit about him now. Let's give him a chance. So that goes a long way, especially on the independent level. So fans don't ever underestimate that, please.
Definitely. So look, before we get into talking about this weekend, I like to do 5 rapid fire questions. Okay. No pressure.
Like Call of Duty, rapid fire.
Yeah, just rapid fire.
Attachment. Yep.
No, list them off. Try not to think about it too much, and just hit me with your answer.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Go nuts.
Dream match.
Triple H, WrestleMania, main event, WWE title.
That's a big one.
I mean, people hate the Triple H Roman Reigns match for Mania, but I watched that and I was like, that's the spot. That's perfect. And the way the finish worked and the build up, the promo package, like they showed Triple H like all these title wins. It was unreal.
Yeah. Oh, you'll know something. You're a man after my own heart because Triple H, since I was like 6 years old, has been my favorite worker. So
he's the man. He is the man.
Absolutely. Now, favorite person that you've had a chance to work with?
That DDP.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I didn't necessarily work against him, but he was involved in a match I had with Sid Parker once. And, like, you know, they say don't meet your heroes, and sometimes they're wankers, and a lot of them have been. But DDP was the man. Oh, like, he's one of my top 5, like, favorites of all time. And top of that, he was such a great bloke and so giving to us. And, mate, I can tell you I won a match thanks to the Diamond Cutter, so...
That's amazing. He's always come across as such a genuine dude.
It's real, yeah.
Yeah, it's real good to see a dream promotion to bring over for a tour. So similar to the Progress or the New Japan, how they come over and co-promote.
Well, yeah, I guess I'd say New Japan because they hadn't done it, but they just did it, so that was pretty cool. It's weird when you say that because like Progress have done it, House of Hardcore's done it, New Japan do it, and WWE do it. Like really, I don't think there's. I think Impact's the only company in Ring of Honor that haven't come over that are sort of in that sort of field, don't you think?
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of
small independents.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying Shimmer. A lot of I've had Tali and Shaz McKenzie both said Shimmer.
Oh, that's a bit biased, but don't you think?
Just a little bit. Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Shimmer too, but
I'm not a fan at all. I do actually enjoy the Shimmer shows, but like I'm going to say the next promotion that hasn't done it that I work for.
Yeah. Well, of course. So Impact or Ring of Honor would be good ones. Impact are pretty open to that sort of thing at the moment too. So
yeah, the change has been quite diverse. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. I'm sure they'll hit England up again because they've got a big base there. But
yeah, well, we had some Aussie workers on a match on Impact not long ago. What was it? Mick Moretti and was it Elliot Sexton? That were in a fatal 4-way match. It was there was just like Brian Cage was in the match, so they had it. It was like edited together from World Series Wrestling.
That's cool.
Pretty impressive.
That is cool. Yeah. And like I said, it's just more eyes on our product, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So best pump up music for the gym.
Guano Apes, Open Your Eyes.
Alrighty. And favorite flavor of protein shake?
Oh, chocolate. I won't have anything but protein doesn't taste great as it is. So,
yeah, see, that's why I like to get the really sweet ones. Like I'm on a strawberry shortcake kick at the moment.
Nah, see, vanilla protein makes me want to vomit. And I'm not big on strawberry and banana flavored things anyway. I find just chocolate. I'm gonna sound bland, but yeah, always chocolate.
That's fine. I'm finding it's a popular choice. Is the big two are chocolate and vanilla. Everyone seems to like.
Yuck! Who is having vanilla?
I'm pretty sure that was Shazza. Shazza said vanilla.
Yeah, that was classic. She has horrible taste in a lot of things.
All right, throwing shade.
Bloody Sharon.
I love it. All right, so this weekend we've got IWA versus MCW, Fighting Spirit 3, biggest show of the year for IWA, State of Origin. You're going in representing Victoria,
yes,
representing Melbourne City Wrestling.
Where the big boys play.
Yeah, we've got... This match is one I'm very excited for. Jackson Kelly. Now, you've had a bit of an encounter with Jackson Kelly in the past. He knocked you out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, in weird circumstances, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go into that?
Absolutely.
So, Underworld Wrestling, to me, is a new promotion, but they've apparently been running for years. But with
hundreds of years.
Yeah, but not being in the public eye. So they've recently gone under this new management where they go, we're going to take it public and we're going to bring wrestling fans into this fight club too. So they've gone out and recruited me as their professional wrestler. And that's how they pitched it to me. They said, we want some wrestlers with some notoriety around the scene that we can bring in to sort of put eyes on the product in a public standpoint. I'm like, yep, great. And because they're not necessarily a traditional wrestling promotion, you get them, they've got all these different rules. They told me the wrong time to rock up. They told me, get here at 7. My match was in half an hour, so I had to get there, get ready, and do it all within half an hour. Just the mismanagement of the joint was ridiculous on that first show. If you go back and watch it, it's all captured on there, most of it. And so I'm in the ring within half an hour, rocking up at the show, not ready, not warmed up. And, yeah, you get caught off guard by the difference in the rules and the setup of the joint. And then, yeah, Jackson Kelly takes advantage. There we are.
Yeah.
So, but no, to be fair, he knocked me head off.
He did call out, as a representative of IWA, he called out the Melbourne City Wrestling wrestlers.
Now the tide's turned. He did. He came to Melbourne and he was all arrogant. And I was like, here we go. And where he was doing it was actually near where I got to go to lunch often. He was down on the tan, down near South Yarra. And I was like, yes. I was actually driving and I seen him. And I waited because I'm like, and I was watching him. I'm like, he's going to film a promo here. And then I took it upon myself to jump in and get involved.
Right, so it was just a matter of, here's this bloke on your territory being arrogant, and that rubbed you the wrong way?
He's arrogant in general, but yeah, like, mate, this is Melbourne City. This is where the big boys play. Like you said, it's 1,200 people. It's one of the biggest shows in Australia in a long time. Like, where the big boys play is for a reason. Like, if he wants to step up, well, he's going to have to be able to handle it.
Absolutely. And he then, of course, has his backup, as always, Will Keatis, Brad Alexander, and they've called you out for a trios match. Now, you've come back with the Brat Pack, Nick Berry, Mitch Waterman.
Yes.
They're going to be by your side. And
the greatest threesome in professional wrestling.
Right, yeah. Very interesting wording that you chose on that one.
What's wrong with that wording?
Well, you know, threesome can also connotate naughty things.
You could say that about having a trio as well, probably, or a tag team.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you're.
If you want to have a dirty mind and keep it in the gutter, you can think of a lot of things.
There's a lot of double entendres there to be had. But Jackson Kelly and the Kelly gang, they say they're coming not for a wrestling match, they're coming for gang warfare.
Gang warfare, it's cute.
I guess the last question I have: are you ready?
Nice. Are you ready? I went up to IWA for State of Origin 2 years ago now in Albury, and I represented Victoria. And we won. So it's not new territory for me. Like you said, I faced Jackson Kelly before. So this time on a professional wrestling show, not an Underworld Fight Club, on a professional wrestling show like IWA, I'll be in my element. And I looked at the way he'd call me out and stuff, and I was like, you want to get a tag team together? Well, if I'm representing MCW here, I'm going to get the best tag team, and I'm going to get the tag team champions, aren't I?
Absolutely.
That's why I went with Slick Nick Berry and the hydration sensation, Mitch Waterman.
So you guys are going in and you're prepared for what they have to throw at you. That's IWA versus MCW Fighting Spirit 3 this weekend. So people check it out. Now, where can people find you in general?
If you look on all forms of social media at JXT_official, you'll find me. JXT, 3 letters. Just make sure it's _official because there's a lot of like fan pages and stuff that'll come up as well, which are a little bit different. But and if you hit me up, generally I'll respond. I'm not going to have small talk with people that's, hey, how are you, every morning. But but no, just legit, I'm there and it's me, and I'm pretty active on there and trying to keep everyone up to date with everything I'm doing. So I got announced for Mayhem Pro in a match with Jake Navarro just like an hour ago. So that's already on there. So everything that I'm doing will be there, as well as the IWA show this week. Generally, I'll try and Instagram story when I'm at the shows and stuff too. So keep an eye out on that. And yeah, at JXT_official. My merchandise is on there too if you go onto all my bios.
Awesome. And Americans, like we said, in that northeast area,
please
hit him up if you've got some contacts. All right, cool. Thank you so much for joining us, JXT.
No, thank you. It was my pleasure.
So there you have it, folks. The Kelly Gang versus JXT and the Brat Pack this Saturday at IWA versus MCW Fighting Spirit 3 State of Origin. It's going to be a gang war, as they say. Now, I just want to say big thanks to Jackson Kelly for sitting down and doing that interview with me a few weeks ago, and big thanks again as well to JXT, who joined me yesterday right before he went on to co-host the On the Turnbuckle podcast. So it was a big day of podcasting for JXT. You can, of course, check out his co-hosting gig on the Turnbuckle. It has launched already. It is down below in the show notes, a link to both that and Wrestle Radio Australia. This week, for Aussie Grapplers interviews, we have Big Keegsy B featuring on Wrestle Radio Australia, and as I said, JXT is co-hosting on the Turnbuckle, where they'll talk about the wrestling week, and they will interview Slick Nick Berry, one half of the Brat Pack with the hydration sensation, Mitch Waterman, ahead of their match leading into IWA Fighting Spirit. Now let's have a look at what else is happening this weekend. in Aussie Grapps. Starting with New South Wales, Friday night, Lucha Fantastica present the Golden Pinata Tournament at the Factory Theatre in Marrickville. Tickets start from $30. Get right up on close to the ring, close to the action as you get to see some hard-hitting, high-flying lucha action. It's a bit of a floor show. Guys all work under masks. They all work under gimmicks. It's really fun, really good night out. Tickets start at $30. Saturday, as we mentioned, of course, IWA and MCW Fighting Spirit 3 State of Origin. This one is stacked. The aforementioned match, of course, the Kelly Gang versus JXT and the Brat Pack. We will also see Mick Moretti versus Slex for the first time ever with Slex's Inter-Commonwealth title on the line. Randall takes on the Jurassic Punk Sid Parker in a no-DQ rematch 1 year in the making. Cowboy Chris Abbott will finally get his hands on Loverboy Lockie Hendricks, and there will be a battle royale for the number 1 contendership to the IWA Trans-Tasman title. Of course, in the main event, Mr. Juicy Gino Gambino takes on the Turkish Delight Mehmet in an intensely personal MCW Heavyweight Championship match. Don't want to miss this show, folks. Tickets start at $16. Then on Sunday afternoon, rounding out the weekend for New South Wales, you can get 3 hot action-packed days of wrestling. CWA Live at Canley Vale, The Art of Destruction, that is Drew Fulton and Roswell, take on the Dangerous Ones, Dean Draven and Jackson Spade, with the CWA Tag Team titles on the line. And 5-Star Flash makes his first defense of the CWA Heavyweight Championship against JT Robinson. Tickets start at $7. This one starts nice and early with a 2 p.m. opening bell. Sunday wrestling, gotta love it. In my home state of South Australia, PWSA present Friday night fights at the Arena in Paraka. Tickets are $15. In Victoria, New Age Wrestling Pure present Battle Lines at the Glenroy Bowls Club. Taylor Rose takes on Aria. The tag titles are on the line in a lumberjack match as Raw Beef defend against the Retro Revolution, and the main event features a huge 8-man elimination tag match. Tickets start at $15 for that one. As always, on Saturday night, PCW come to you live from the Southeastern Entertainment Centre with Ignition. Tickets are $10 for that one. For my Tasmania people, Tasmanian Championship Wrestling comes to you this Saturday night with Ground Attack at the Elfin Sports Theatre. Black and Brave graduate Zeke Andino will be in action. We will also see a TCW Championship match between Eddie Jones and Liam Lacey. Tickets are $15 for that one at the door. For Western Australian wrestling fans, EPW present Vendetta at Body Slam Central in Perth. This is a big one. Street Gang Hooligans, the Headhunters, and the team of Kyle Steria and David Nero will battle it out to determine the number 1 contenders to the tag team titles, which will be decided later in the night in a big match between the champions, the Untouchables, and Nacho Friends. Taylor King and the TK Task Force take on Julian Ward, who's bringing some mates with him. Jordan Bishop and Johnny Wimbledon are going to even the odds against the TK Task Force. That's going to be a good one to watch. We have EPW Invitational Tournament B Block semifinals. This is the longest running professional wrestling tournament in Australia. Tyler Jacobs will take on Hayden Zenith, and Billy Williams will go one-on-one with Gorgeous Gary. Elsewhere on the card, Big Rig Scotty Ryan has to fend off 2 challenges for his Coastal Championship in AZ Vergara and Jay Taylor, and of course the main event, the Don, Michael Morleone, and Gavin McGavin inside a steel cage for the EPW Championship. This is not one to miss. It's a strong contender for stealing the weekend. Tickets start at $12.50. For prices like that, you're insane not to go check it out, to be honest with you. Up in Queensland, this one's a sleeper hit of the weekend for me. Venom Pro Wrestling present Meltdown 3 at Beanley Bowls Club. Lynx and Sebastian Matters will go to war in a hardcore death match. The tag team titles will be on the line when Anti-Venom defend against Suit Up Society. Jake Nova takes on Apollo Jackson. Indy Hartwell goes one-on-one with Avery, and Caveman Ugg looks to add another belt to his newly won PWA Championship when he challenges Tim Cade for the VPW Heavyweight Championship. Tickets start at $10. If you're in the area, make sure you check this one out. It looks like a really good show. Finally, something a little bit different. This one's not an Aussie Grapps show, but it is the opportunity for you to become an Aussie Grappler yourself. If you live in Adelaide, Adelaide Championship Wrestling are holding tryouts on Sunday the 26th of August at the ACW Arena in Prospect. Come on down, bring your workout gear, engage in the tryout, have a little bit of an interview, and see if you have what it takes to train with Adelaide Championship Wrestling to become a professional wrestler. Get out, support Aussie Grapps this weekend. If you're thinking of becoming an Aussie Grappler and you live in Adelaide, Adelaide Championship Wrestling is the place to be on Sunday. I'll see you there. I am, of course, at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at The Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are known as the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit. Get your shit together, Twitter. B+ Wrestling everywhere else. That's on Facebook, that's on Spotify, that's on YouTube, that's on everywhere. We are taking over the world. Get out and support some Aussie Grapps this weekend. Thank you so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy.